Let's get to it, Mensch. We got a huge game this week. Talked about number 2 versus number 5, Indiana. We know the strength of schedule, 106. We know they've controlled every game they played in, even Michigan, the tightest game they played in. I want to get into this game specifically. And you and I, it's always going to be about studying the tape and kind of looking at the personnel, but also like, how's it going to play out? What do we expect to see, right?
Right.
I took a deep dive in the last couple of days, into Indiana, specifically on the offensive side of the ball.
Okay.
And with the mindset of how are they going to do it against this defense? We talked about Ohio State, right? 9 different players with draftable grades. Caleb Downs is probably going to be the earliest draft pick, but it won't be in this class because he's not eligible. It'll be in 2026. Right. Could be a top 7, top 10 pick at the safety position. He's that special. So you're talking about 10 guys that we can look at right now and say are going to do something in the NFL. Indiana, it's not the case. But so I studied Indiana, like, okay, what are they going to do? And I really just dug in on Indiana offensively. I'll tell you this, they're fucking annoying. They're just annoying with their operation, right?
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
They do everything right. Mm-hmm. This probably won't play well in the Midwest, right? It popped in my head. But you go back to like the 80s. Remember like how the American car manufacturers, all of a sudden there was Toyota and Honda, right? And all of a sudden they were just like killing us with the fact that they were producing all these cars. And it was like the big thing you see in movies and all the struggles in the Midwest, right? And they rose to prominence not because they had the sexiest cars. They didn't have the most powerful engines. They didn't have the big Ford trucks, right? Right. But they killed us with the efficiency of their factory. Right. And when I watch Indiana, they kill you with the efficiency of their factory. It's their operation. They do everything right. That's what I just said. So when I watch them, they block everything up. They catch everything. Those receivers don't drop anything. Most underrated wide receiver core in the country after I went and studied every single target. I think it's the most underrated wide receiver and deep. They're in the right leverage on their routes. They catch contested catches. They're up there with, I think they're number 1 team in the country in terms of contested catches. And they don't have the biggest dudes. Okay. And we'll get back to the receivers, but their backs are in the correct holes. They hit the holes hard. They protect like absolute maniacs in pass pro as running backs. They've only, as an offense, fumbled the ball twice this year. Okay. Right. They're 12th as a team in turnover margin. Okay. And when I look at this offense, it's a really simple game when you play Frank Cignetti football the way the Hoosiers do.
Keep it simple, stupid. Right?
They kill you with efficiency. And so that's the thing that jumped out to me. It's like you got a quarterback in Rourke who's come in. I think he's got 46 starts, and he's like the captain of the efficiency train, if you will.
Starts right with him.
It starts right with him. Doesn't put him in a lot of bad situations. Sets the protections up well. They have a lot of the zone read stuff, and he makes the right reads. But here's what I also know. While he's smart and he limits mistakes, he can layer the ball. He's deadly accurate, right? His ball, he does a great job, over the linebacker, before the safety, leading receivers. He does excellent timing with his receivers, like the back shoulder throws that he makes, the timing that he has with his receivers. Right. Okay. So all those things he does great. But here's what I do know about Rourke. When you're talking about Curtis Rourke, the quarterback, not a big arm. Nope. Not a threat as a runner. Nope. So if you're going to do it without a monster arm, if you're not Josh Allen, if you're not Lamar Jackson, if you're not Jalen Milroe with the mobility, right? If you're not Carson Beck with the mobility and the strong arm, you better win up here between your ears, okay? And my goodness, he does it. It's frustrating because I was watching. I told you when we started this, I was watching it from a defensive lens. What is Ohio State going to do? Can they just roll out their helmets and their 9 draft eligible prospects and their safety who's going to be a top 10 pick in 2026 and Caleb Downs and just, we're better than you. Our athletes are better. They're faster. They're bigger. They're stronger. We're better. And my answer after studying the tape is,
Really?
Now, we'll get to the bigger picture in all this, but I want you to understand, like, they're going to come out and they're going to be an 11 personnel. That's their base. 1 back, 1 tight end, 3 receivers, typically, right? More so than not. The pre-snap motion, they're going to make you as a defense declare what you're doing. You in zone, you in man. I think Ohio State's they mix it up, zone and man. We've seen that. We've done a deep dive into Ohio State's defensive tape. We both agree their corners are better in press man, use that physicality that they have, right? But they're going to make you declare defensively with those pre-snap motions. They're not going to come out. They're not going to tempo you a lot. Occasionally they'll mix something in when they need to, but this is not a fast pace. It's the opposite of what we've come to see in college football when it started with Chip Kelly, when it's run 100 plays, don't care if we're in the right play, run it. It's the opposite. It's let's get to the line. Let's check with me a little bit if we have to. Let's set the protection. Let's see what they're doing. Let's motion guys around, man or zone. Let's run the play on our clock. If Michigan's any indicator or some of the other tougher defenses, they're going to feel you out. It's going to be screens. It's going to be quick game. It's going to be running the ball inside. From a personnel standpoint, I already mentioned, the thing that surprised me the most, we're not talking about elite level receivers, but we're talking about a group that is all damn good. Like,
and they know
damn good. They know the rules. They know where to be. They know their leverages. They block for you, and they catch every. Like, I'm watching the Michigan game, and Elijah Surratt is the big guy. He's their number 1 receiver. He's had a phenomenal year, 685 catches, 18 yards per catch. He's number 13. He's their bigger receiver, 6'2", 209. Okay. He had a double move against Michigan. It wasn't the best double move you've ever seen, but he kind of broke the corner's ankles and goes for a touchdown. But I'm watching 5, right? Number 5, Keyshawn Williams, who's got 12 catches, 156 the last 2 weeks. He's coming on. He catches the ball. His helmet smashes against the ground. He had another catch where he's on the sideline. There's no way he was in, right? But dips his toe down at the end, catching everything, smashes his helmet on the ground. And I'm like, I haven't looked at the injury report. Is he going to be here? 2 plays later, he's back on the field. Then I watch Omar Cooper, 22 yards per catch. Little guy, not the biggest guy. Another play, just whack on the sideline, left sideline. And I'm like, he might not become like 4 or 5 plays. So, like, these guys are tough.
Yeah.
They're in all the right position. And then the running backs, 7, I know 6, Justice Ellison was kind of the guy coming into the year. They rotate and all that. He's really good hands, only 11 catches, catches the ball well, blocks. They both block really well. And he's a tough runner, picks up the yards that are available. But Tyson Lawton, the other guy, 17, he's gotten more carries for a reason. He's got a little bit more juice. Okay.
Yeah, they've got 2.
So I ain't saying that Indiana's got the personnel to go out and put up big numbers, but I am saying defensively, my takeaway was Ohio State better be ready for 4 quarters, because what they do is they'll efficiency you to death. Indiana will. Mm-hmm. They'll drive you crazy because they won't make mistakes. They'll block up their guys. They'll make the right reads. The receivers will make the contested catches. The running backs will hit the holes when they're open. And 17's got a little bit more juice, okay? But then all of a sudden you make one mistake and they'll pop one on you. Mm-hmm. So it's like this weird dynamic. They're not taking a lot of shots. They're not a big play. They're not tempoing you. They're not going to wear you out that way, but they'll wait for their, they'll wait for their moment. And so I'm fascinated to see this matchup with Ohio State's defense. And are they able to be patient? Are they able to play discipline, gap discipline? Are they sound in the secondary? They're going to be tested in this game in a different way than you would think. Not by speed, not by size, not by strength, but by their discipline and their patience in this game will be really put to the test.
Yeah, I mean, that the yards per catch, some big numbers there, right? Mm-hmm. I think that speaks to Rourke's ball placement, puts it right where these guys can create after the catch. It also speaks to the fact that Ohio State's going to have to tackle well after the catch.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, and I want to get your take on this. Were you concerned with the second half after Rourke threw the interception against Michigan? Because that's my concern. If I'm Ohio State, this is what
it was
I'm
a
trying
bad
to do.
interception too.
Right. I'm trying to take away his first read. So I'm trying to really take away the inside receiver first. I'm going to crowd the receivers on the outside because I think my corners can match up. And if you can force Rourke to hold on to the ball, Indiana starts to get into trouble, because as tough as that offensive line is, and as well as they play as a unit, individually, and we'll get into this a little bit more, pass protection is going to break down against the Ohio State front. We'll get into this a little bit more. And we just talked about it. He's not a guy that's going to make a lot of off-platform throws. He's not a guy that's going to, scramble for a lot of, big plays. So to me, I felt like that was concerning, I thought the offense kind of tightened up and he wasn't as confident after that interception.
I saw that. His ball placement, I put in my notes, his ball placement after that interception was not the same. And there were actually a couple throws before the interception. He went through I don't want to call him streaky because I don't think he's streaky, but every quarterback kind of, there are moments in games. He went through 7-8 throw stretch where his first, 8, 9 throws, 10 throws, whatever it was, were brilliant. It was just like right where you want him and layering him. But yeah, he went through a little stretch. And can he, I guess the question you're asking, and I mean, only time will tell. I think the question you're asking, can he afford that same kind of 7-8 throw stretch like he did against Michigan? It's not a night game. It's big noon kick for Fox, and there will be a lot. These Ohio State fans are used to it, and they'll be lined up the tailgating and all that. But it's not going to be the environment that it would be if it were a night game. But it's still going to be an environment, and you're still going against those athletes. And I don't think that he can overcome that stretch against Ohio State, because the difference is Michigan's got a lot of talent on defense. Michigan doesn't have an offense. Ohio State does.
That was my point. You're not trying to keep pace with that Michigan offense. You're trying to keep pace with a Ryan Day, Chip Kelly offense that, we'll get into this a little bit more about the issues up front, but with weapons everywhere. So you're trying to keep pace with that offense. The margin of error is not the same as it was against Michigan. So it'll be interesting to see. I agree with everything you're seeing in Indiana. I do worry about the talent and the matchups in certain areas.
All right. So I kind of tasked myself, if you will, with I really wanted to study how Indiana was going to match up against this outstanding defense. We've talked about it. It's not the level of 2017 Alabama. It's not the level of 2021, 2022 Georgia. But it's a damn good defense with a lot of NFL prospects on that defense, right?
Right.
But I also, and I don't even have to task you with it, you task yourself with it, the trenches. And I'm excited. Muench's Trenches. We're going to debut it today, okay? We're going to bring it back. It's a reboot. Muench's Trenches 2.0. Show me. I think we get some imaging here. Show me that stuff. Bad Birdie hat. We got to get you a sponsorship. That Bad Birdie hat.
Right.
I love it. Muench, former offensive lineman. He handles a lot of our guys in the trenches. Great offensive line, understanding what to look for and evaluating over the years, all positions, but certainly in the offensive line. I'm curious what you saw, and it's going to be so critical. And I know we've got an injury to talk about, but the floor is yours, Muench. It was the most popular. I think it sold the most subscriptions on ESPN.com ever, the most popular article ever. It outsold Kuiper and my mock drafts. It was a national sensation. And at some point, I think, it got forgotten, but we're bringing it back. It's Muench's Trenches 2.0. We will feature on this show. It's a reboot. And I want to know, for this game specifically, what do you got?
Well, listen, we got to start with the injury. I mean, the news came out that the Iowa State lost their starting center, Seth McLaughlin, to a torn Achilles this week. Big loss. Well, first of all, I went back and I'm watching him on tape, and man, he's a dude. He moves really well. He's powerful. I mean, he can reach linebackers at the second level. He can get into space. He holds up in pass protection. It is a big loss for them, but I think not only are you losing now 2 of your 3 best offensive linemen, because you lost Josh Simmons to a knee injury earlier in the year. Donovan Jackson's probably your best player.
And he's a a career guard, played only guard his
Yeah.
entire career, and could be, you know, one of the top 2 or 3 guards drafted in the upcoming draft, but they kicked him out to left tackle.
Right. So now you're on your fifth offensive line lineup. There's been a lot of changes, a lot of moving pieces, and it's concerning to me. Now, listen, you got a guy in Carson Hintzman who started 12 games at center last year. You're going to kick. It sounds like this is what's going to happen. He's been playing left guard since Donovan Jackson went to tackle. So now you're going to move him back in the center, right? Then you're going to have Austin Saraveld come in at left guard, redshirt freshman, started 2 games early in the year, Western Michigan and Akron. And then, you know, I think if you were looking at this at the beginning of the year and ranking the offensive linemen for Ohio State, their right guard Shabala was probably the weakest link, for a lack of a better way of putting it. Very talented kid, moves well, big body, but he's high cut. He overextends at times. His footwork's a little consistent. So the reason I'm bringing this up is the interior offensive line of Ohio State versus the interior defensive line of Indiana is something we need to keep a close eye on in this game.
What's Indiana got?
Indiana defensive tackle CJ West is a game wrecker. Oh, man. Big, powerful, violent hands. Doesn't have a high sack number, but moves the quarterback off the spot consistently. One-on-one, he is a problem. And one of the reasons in James Carpenter, who's the guy next to him, not as strong as against the run as West, but really flashes a pass rusher. Very good hands, too. He's got 4 sacks. He's a guy who can get off to the quarterback, too. So you're looking at that interior offensive line. And not only that, Indiana plays a lot of games. They will twist and stunt. So, you know, again, you have a guy who started 12 games at center at your center position now. You're at home. That should help with the communication. All that's good. They're going to throw a lot at that offensive line in the middle, and how well they adjust and pick it up is going to be interesting to see. And I'll tell you, I went back and watched, because I want to see these guys. I went back and watched Western Michigan, and I was watching Saraveld, and I was like, good run blocker. We've got some issues in pass pro. So, I mean, I'm a little concerned about him in pass pro. And then I liked the way Hintzman played against Penn State at guard last week. And then at the end of the Western Michigan game, it's a blowout. And I see Hintzman at center, and he's getting beat clean in pass pro. Jeez. And all of those things are adding up to, listen, I think, I'll be blunt about it. I think Ohio State can take advantage of the lack of depth Indiana has up front, and I think that they'll be okay. And eventually, the offensive line will play well enough for them to win this game. I do think that. But if you're looking long term, and we're talking about the playoffs eventually, this is a concern long term.
What's FanDuel got for us? What are the odds in this game? I'm interested. 13.5. Indiana is getting 13.5. minus 520 Ohio State to win. Over under 51.5. That's interesting.
Your mind is spinning. I can hear your mind spinning.
Yeah, because I look at these. Honest to God, before I really dug into Indiana and like I've watched them all season, but really studying their offense, I would have said that's the under. I kind of think the over might hit. But then
interesting
offensive line for Ohio State. And like, I do think Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, and Ryan Day, obviously, I think they're going to want to grind it out and wear them down. Wouldn't you want to wear them down and especially
100%? That's their weakness, is their depth.
So like, that scares me too. I think I think everyone's going to take 13.5. I'll be honest, after studying that tape of the offense, I'm convinced Ohio State's going to win this game. It won't shock me if this is like 10, 11-point game. You know what I mean? Like hanging around.
Like a Nebraska
big
game.
Plays, efficient. Ohio State kind of gets a little, I don't know. That game's interesting.
Yeah.
Huge ramifications, obviously.
The flip side, I think that the Indiana offensive line has played really well together. Always in the right. Yeah,
I don't see one dude there.
No,
but my goodness, like they remember we talked to Joel Klatt about like ballet, or just like when the zone blocking, it's like what synchronized swimmers. They're all in the right spot. They hat for a hat, and I know it's like, okay, enough about hat.
I think you called it a Russian ballet. I like that one.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch. This might be, and like there's a lot of great coach teams out there, and we got a lot of great coaches. This might be like play for play the best coached football team in the country.
Right. We keep hearing about Cignetti, and I'm like, Ryan Day's no punk. I mean, it's kind of getting overlooked. It almost feels like how good of a coach Ryan Day is.
Yeah. And I'm not matching what I'm just saying what he's been able to do in a short. This isn't like a program that's been churning for a while. What Cignetti's been able to do coming in the off season to get them playing like this is the efficiency of this operation, this factory, like everything is just run. It's clean. It's clean. So I don't know. I kind of, if gun to head, I think I would might just take the points, but I don't know. And this is coming from a guy who says, I'm not convinced that Indiana belongs in the top 12. And
I know.
So like
those injuries up front, let's be honest, if they are healthy, if they had the guys that they thought they were going to be playing up front at the beginning of the season, I'm looking at this game a lot differently. I mean, I love CJ West. He is, again, keep an eye on that defensive tackle, CJ West for Indiana. He's a good player. But I just think if they're fully healthy. And again, Donovan Jackson, I'll say this. I was encouraged by the way he played against Penn State. I mean, he's lining up against Abdul Carter. Yes. He's going to have another tough matchup against Mikhail Kamara, who's a good player. He's a good edge coming off there too. I wouldn't put him. He's not the same athletically or explosiveness wise as an Abdul Carter, but he's going to give him a lot to handle. But make no mistake about it, Donovan Jackson is a better guard than tackle. This is a makeshift offensive line that they are trying to figure out on the run. And again, I think they have enough talent to get around. I do see Chip using he's going to keep guys off balance with all that run pass option and the read zones. He's going to do a lot of play action. I think he'll use Will Howard in the running game. Though, by the way, the Ohio State backs, I don't know what got into them last week, but they were blocking like maniacs. They were
reminds me of like remember Ohio State years past, different regime with Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah. Yep.
Remember
same thing. Yeah.
Just
they were taking pride.
Yeah.
So if you've got, instead of having 9 blockers, you've got 10 blockers. I think there's enough that they can do. And again, they're really good at if you're worried about your interior offensive line, get outside. And they've got, Travion Henderson is one of the most explosive backs in the country. He's not one of the most complete, but he is so explosive. And then Judkins is just a dude. I think they're going to attack the perimeter, keep them off balance with all the magic show that Chip Kelly can put on for you. And it'll be enough for them I think they'll cover, but it'll be interesting. Yeah.
And Indiana's run defense has been sensational.
Yeah. Those linebackers fly around again, gap sound, always in the right place. Sound tacklers, tough, all the things that you would think
their
about
yards. I saw some stat this week. They've given up 31 rushing yards before contact. The next best was like 150 or something crazy.
Yeah.
Think about that. They're like 31 yards. So if they're going to have to earn it, if history's any indication, like Henderson, Judkins, Will Howard, they're going to have to you got to break tackles and force missed tackles if you're going to do it against this Indiana team, unless they're just completely overwhelmed with this offensive front. So love the Muench's Trenches 2.0, the reboot. Good to have
love
it back.
Graphic.
FanDuel, I'm not going to get into a big thing. I've won the pool 2 weeks in a row. I've gone 12-2 in college football picks the last 2 weeks. Okay. All right. And we pounded FanDuel last week. I'm just going to throw them out there. I don't need a big applause. I don't need any imaging. I'm just going to say we want to reward you for watching this show and listening to this show. And we appreciate everyone who has downloaded, subscribed, spread the word. We're trying to make it here. But this is one way we can help out.